Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Robinson, and I am Mayor of West Grey. Welcome to our June 2nd, 2020 Council meeting for West Grey. We are using audio only to conduct this electronic meeting. Video is not possible at this time due to the bandwidth in some areas of West Grey. Bandwidth is challenging our ability to do a complete video broadcast, so for now we are sharing today's agenda as well as the audio. On item 1, I'm calling this meeting to order. All members of council are present as identified through their login. We have a quorum. The agenda for this meeting has been circulated, and this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the West Grey website, www.westgrey.com. The technology for this meeting is being managed by staff. Please refrain from clicking buttons throughout the meeting unless prompted. Before we continue, I'd ask our Recreation Supervisor, Cody Hewitt, to give an overview of some of the other key points for today's meeting. Supervisor Hewlett, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected at any time during this meeting, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID 822-7961-7256. Both members of council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hands to speak. Members of council will be using the green checkmark button to vote in favor of a motion and the red X to vote against. Each member of council will then be called upon verbally to confirm their vote for the benefit of any guests who have joined us over the phone rather than using the online software. If you have any technical issues throughout our meetings, you can send a message to myself, Cody Hewlett, the Recreation Supervisor, and I will assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewlett. We appreciate that. On item 2, moment of reflection. Members of council and those listening, please take a quiet moment of reflection. Thank you. Item 3, declarations of pecuniary interest, direct or indirect. Members of council, are there any pecuniary interests? Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchinson.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Robinson. It's Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchinson. I will declare an interest in the one matter before a closed session, just the one item though. And I have signed and filed a document with CAO Johnson this morning.
Okay. Madam CAO, who's also our Deputy Clerk, within that declaration, is that enough or is there anything additional that needs to be identified? Just looking for some assistance with that regard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Deputy, for the filing of the paperwork. It is the only matter that the Deputy is making a declaration toward is the May 26th council meeting minutes. So we will invite him into closed session once that matter is dealt with in closed.
Thank you for the clarity on that. All right, I appreciate that. Our next item, first of all, members of council, are there any other declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we all know that at the time that you realize there is a pecuniary interest, conflict of interest, that would be the time to declare. We are now moving on to item 4, closed session. Madam CAO, do you have a motion to read at this time?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. I will read the motion and then perhaps you can ask for a mover and seconder.
Yes.
It's a little, thank you. Whereas the Municipal Act SO 2001 Section 2392 as amended authorizes councils of municipalities to close to the public a meeting or part of a meeting for dealing with certain subject matters. Now therefore be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole of the Municipality of West Grey does now go into a closed session at 9:05 a.m. with the CAO, the Director of Finance Treasurer, Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, Chief Building Official, Manager Planning and Development, Administrative Assistant, Clerk's Office, and Mr. Tremble, Can Do Homes to discuss items that relate to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Oh, right now we have a Question, Councillor Hamilton, I will take questions after we get a mover and seconder. So Councillor Hutchinson, are you moving the motion?
Yes, Councillor Hutchison, I move the motion.
Councillor Townsend, are you seconding this motion? We just need Councillor Townsend's.
Councillor Townsend, yes, I will second the motion.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Just to clarify, I think the motion read committee as a whole and it should read council.
Madam CAO, could you clarify that? And thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hamilton. It did read Committee of the Whole and to be amended to say, now therefore be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of West Grey now go into closed session. I will make that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any other questions or comments? On the motion then, if you're voting in favor, please use your check mark. If you're voting against, please use your X mark. All right, as mayor, I am voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor, state your name and how you are voting. You know what, Madam CAO, I think for the, to go in camera, shall we refrain from the Deputy Mayor voting on the in camera? I know there's another item, but how should that be worked? Because I'd like the procedural announcement made in public. So could you please let me know whether I should be calling the vote on the Deputy Mayor or not?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My recommendation would be that perhaps the deputy refrains from voting.
Thank you. So noted in the minutes that the Deputy Mayor will not be voting on this. Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion does carry. Please clear your dashboard. And it will be noted that Deputy Mayor Hutchinson will not be available in our in-camera session or participate when his item of declaration comes up. So now we'll go in camera. Thank you very much. Confirm that all members of council are in this public session. Could you please confirm by a check mark if you're in? All right, we have all members of council present. Please clear your dashboard. So I'm looking for a motion to rise. Madam CAO, could you please read the motion and then I'll get a mover and a seconder.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to return to open. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of council at 10:36 a.m.
Could I please have a mover for that? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving the motion?
Councillor Hamilton, yes, I move the motion.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I second the motion.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're voting in favor of the motion, please signify with a check mark. If you're not in favor, with an X mark. So on the motion, I as Mayor, Christine Robinson, am voting in favor of the motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion does carry. As mayor, I am stating that only the matters that we went in camera for were the only items that we did discuss. On item 5, matters arising from the closed session, NA. Thank you very much. Members of council, I would ask that we have a break at this time for 5 minutes. So we'll come back at, well, actually at 11:15, and then we will resume. So we're just taking a recess. And when we resume in 5, we will start with item 6. Could I just have an agreement, please? If you're in agreement, a check mark. Thank you very much. We'll see you all back in 5 minutes. And well, hello everyone, and welcome back. For members of council, could you please use your check mark? I'd like to know that all members of council are present. We are waiting on Councillor Hutchinson. Thank you very much. We are all here. Okay, clear your dashboard. We are now back after our recess. Thank you very much, everyone. We have all members of council present. We are now on item 6, which is the comment period. Supervisor Hewlett, have we received any emails, phone calls, or correspondence submitted in our Dropbox pertaining to this comment period?
At this time, we haven't received any.
Okay, so we now will continue on then. We are now on, that's item 6. Item 7, public meetings. There are none for this particular agenda. Item 8, Part 1, consent agenda. Madam CAO, could you please read the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that items A1 to B1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as printed, and further, that authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I will move the motion.
Councillor Townsend, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm seconding the motion.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Hergert?
I do have a comment on the May 19th Committee of the Whole minutes. On page 23, there was just one spelling. It wasn't even an error, it is a word, but instead of it says gravel, grave, and maintain the portion of road. It should just be gravel, grade, and maintain. So that's on page 23 of this agenda.
Thank you for that, and it was most appropriate at this time to do that. Madam CAO, could that be reflected in the minutes, and we'll just move this as amended then, would you suggest?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for bringing it forward, Councillor Herger. Deputy Mayor, as the mover, we're going to amend it. Are you okay on the motion? Approve as amended.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, approved as amended.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend as the seconder, are you fine with that?
Councillor Townsend, also okay with that.
Perfect. So I am calling the question on the motion. All those in favor, please signify with a check mark. Those opposed with an X mark. As mayor, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Herger, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion does carry. Thank you very much. We are moving on to item 9, which is part 2 regular agenda. Item 10, communications from mayor, members of council. I will start and then I will go over to Councillor Townsend and work around the virtual horseshoe in that manner. First of all, please clear your dashboards. Thank you. All right, I just want to mention that this past Sunday, Trek for Tourette's West Grey Ayton took place. The goal for Trek for Tourette's is to generate funding for Tourette Canada, as well as create awareness and understanding about Tourette syndrome. So this Sunday, Trek for Tourette's hosted an untraditional trek with lots of fun. The trek was the 12th year nationally, and it's Ayton's 5th year annually. The organizers are still tallying the dollars raised, and of course, there's still time to purchase a ball cap, and donations are still coming in. I do want to say that the Conservation Authorities, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority areas are open. Facilities will remain closed at this time. So that includes the playground areas and picnic shelters. I do want to say campgrounds are open for self-contained seasonal units. As well, the new general manager of the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority started work yesterday. So we're very pleased that has taken place. Last week was Paramedic Services Week. The theme this year was Pandemic Paramedics on the Front Line. I also want to mention that the Neustadt Normie Carrick Agricultural Fair has been canceled for this year. It was to take place September 18th and 19th. Stay tuned for next year. And also, please refer to Grey County website and West Grey website for further updates, and certainly West Grey has an active social media pages. Thank you for your time. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yes, Councillor Townsend, thank you. I'd like to begin by saying I attended virtually the county meeting last Thursday, and to say that it was active and interesting is sort of an understatement. It was good to see particularly the internet being raised as a large issue that council wants to, that's county council, wants to make sure is forefront and addressed. I think that's really important. And just to see how the other things on COVID and whatnot are moving forward was really educational. Encourage people to watch that if they get the chance. Bruce Power again held its biweekly meeting. They are prepping for restarting their redevelopment project, which is good once that's allowed. And the interesting part there is that when they do actually restart, it will help on the recovery aspect because of all the jobs and purchasing that they'll be doing. That's both on site and off site. So they'll be able to keep a lot of things local, which is great. And that should help the Grey Bruce area. They're also, they have a recovery council that's working underway, and they reported on that as well. We had a really good meeting with Principals Integrity last week, and that was excellent. And we're still working with them to clarify items, just to make sure the council does in fact adhere. I just wanted to make sure that the public's aware that we don't take it lightly and we continue to stay on top of it. Also watching what's happening on the province and more opening up and things of that nature. It was really nice to see the announcement of the advance of the gas tax funds. And I use the word and emphasize advance because it's funds we would have had by the end of November anyway. So it's not a gift, it's not additional money, it is money that's coming, but it will be here sooner than later. And I think that's a good thing. And also the Blue Box program transition is beginning. And so I know we have to have a resolution, I believe, by the end of June on the books as a result of that. So that's, again, just trying to stay in touch and stay up to date on what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Councillor Townsend, for mentioning about the broadband. I had put a notice of motion forward at County Council, and it was presented at last Thursday's Grey County Committee of the Whole. It did receive unanimous support from Grey County Council. It needs to be ratified at our next County Council meeting, but I was absolutely delighted with the support from Grey County Council. We do need broadband in this area, hands down, in terms of we've got underserviced as well as unserviced areas. So we're moving along. We've put a call to action through my motion for the provincial government to support and be champion of broadband in this area. So I will provide updates as we move along with that. Yeah, Grey County Council was extremely active and moving things along, and I'm pleased to be a participant in that and a representative. Also, with regard to the, we had the integrity commissioners provide council with a presentation, and they certainly addressed our questions. And that that meeting was made last Tuesday, May 26th, so that will be obviously available on audio on our website for anyone that wishes to listen in. All right, thank you for that indulgence. Councillor Hergert, please.
Well, I am at home working with my husband, who's working from home at this time, and my 3 children who are doing online school. And so we do appreciate you advocating for broadband. And I'm sure I'm not alone on that either. I was curious if we had an update made possibly from our CAO on the Saugeen Connects and succession planning. I've actually had an opportunity to speak with a couple business owners, and some of them weren't really sure that they would want to come back and start up online again in the middle of a COVID pandemic. And so I'm just curious where we are with that program that was to connect entrepreneurs with business owners, and help liaise that transition so that we keep our small town rural businesses, not losing anybody along the way. And I'm sure we will, but if we have some sort of transition plan through the Saugeen Connects, I'd like to hear that information and then be able to spread that further again.
So I think what we'll do, because this is just a report from members of council, I think this is something that is coming forward with our Economic Development Committee. I'm just going to permit, Madam CAO, if you could quickly state where we're at with this so that we could continue on just with the reports from our members of council, just in terms of what we're doing. It's not actually a new business item, but I just want to dispense of this quickly. Madam CAO?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor. Saugeen Connects is still very much alive and well. I will do an outreach to the team to see what the status is, and we will take it from there. But I appreciate the heads up, Councillor. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll work further on that. Councillor Hergert, anything further, please?
No, just a physical distancing and shop local as much as we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Councillor Shea, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's Councillor Shea. I don't have a lot to report. Sort of laying low like everyone else during this difficult time. I'm glad to see that there is a movement towards some relaxation and opening up. And I was delighted to see that even our libraries will now be offering curbside pickup. So congratulations to library board members and library staff for making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. It's Deputy Mayor Hutchinson here. A couple of the items I had on my list have already been discussed, so I'll move forward or beyond those. But good news is the organizers of Trek for Tourette's have updated as of this morning and are very pleased to announce that it was just over $9,000. They still have some hats and a few other loose ends, so very successful. And thank you. They just want to do a shout out and say thank you very much to the community for all their support. So not a bad virtual setup for this year. But other than that, I'm like everyone else, staying at home, staying safe, and just waiting for things to open up so we can get back out in public.
Great. And thank you for the up-to-the-minute update. Really appreciate that. Councillor Hamilton, please. Councillor Hamilton.
Good morning, Mayor Robinson, members of council. And it's been a busy time here out in the garden doing lots of planting here on my own property, and looking forward to hearing more about our community gardens later today with the discussion with staff. And yes, thank you, Councillor Shea, for mentioning that the library is starting curbside pickup of library books. It's beginning at the Durham branch, and it's by appointment only. So you're encouraged to call the library, and it's going to be running starting this week, Wednesday to Friday, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So looking forward to having this roll out, and I'm sure it'll be very successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councillor Hamilton, we certainly look forward to an update on how this initiative is working from you and other members of the library board.
Thank you. Will do.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchison here. Just a couple of items. Glad to see that local businesses are starting to open up a little bit more and doing it gradually. So that seems to be working. Golf courses are open. Actually got a round of golf in, which is good to hear. And hopefully our tennis courts and playgrounds can open soon, but I understand that it's sort of directions come from the province. A note about the Terry Fox run this year is going to be virtual, and so they've been putting some advertising out there. If people want to get involved, a very worthwhile cause. So it'll gear up for September again, but it'll be done virtually. And just like to mention about our gas line that's moving forward on the second concession. Lots of workers, lots of activity going on there. It is creating a little bit of havoc in terms of traffic flow, but it's good to see some progress in moving forward in West Grey. So even though things are a little bit hesitant out there, we are moving forward. And that's the important thing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we will hear from Madam CAO as well as Chief Schwartz and Chief Martin when we have the COVID-19 update. And there's more information on that. We are working on opening up our committees, so that'll be discussed. We're going to do a phased-in approach, but we're moving that ahead, and I will have Madam CEO talk about that during the update. So very active on item 10. Item 11, delegations for this particular agenda. We do not have any. Item 12, business arising from the previous meeting. Madam CAO, was there anything on your list for this?
Through Madam Mayor, no, I have nothing.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, please.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. I just wanted to clarify the library curbside pickup.
Okay.
You can begin calling in this week for anything you have on hold or to book an appointment, but the actual curbside will not begin until June 10th, which is next Wednesday rather than this week. So I just wanted to clarify that for the folks that are present and also those that will come in to listen to the audio.
Thank you very much for that the clarification. Clarification is always necessary. Appreciate that. Okay. Any other business arising from the previous meeting? Seeing none, we are now on to item 13. There are 3 staff reports before us, beginning with the Director of Finance and Treasurer. So what we normally do is we will have Madam CAO at this point read the motion. I'll be looking for a mover and seconder and then entertaining any questions that members of council have. So on that, Madam CAO, could you please read the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance / Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher 9-2020 in the amount of $336,028.22 of the Municipality of West Grey.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will move the motion.
Councillor Hamilton, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hamilton, I second the motion.
Thank you. Any questions from members of council? Please signify if you do with a raised hand. Seeing none, I'm calling the question on this motion. All those in favor, please signify with a check mark. If you're not in favor, please signify with an X mark. As mayor, I am voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Herger, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Herger, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
The motion does carry. Thank you very much. We are now moving on to the Chief Administrative Officer's reports, beginning with COVID-19 update. Madam CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just watching the recording, and I'm not quite sure that I was clear enough in reading that motion. So it has passed, but if you don't mind, may I read it again just for the record?
Absolutely, and thank you for that clarity. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the motion regarding the Director of Finance Treasurer voucher report. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher 9-2020 in the amount of $336,028.22 of the Municipality of West Grey.
And that was moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton, and we did have the vote on that. So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Madam
Thank you.
CAO. Thank you. We are now moving on to your first report. This is COVID-19 update. And then I guess with that, would you also please include the community gardens update?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report was originally with Committee of the Whole, I believe, and it was deferred to this meeting. So the report is as it was. There hasn't been any additions to it. Quite a comprehensive report that was I was assisted by members of staff, so I'd like to thank them very much for their contributions. It's been a very busy time, but we are getting things moving along quite nicely in with, you know, keeping in mind guidelines from public health and, you know, working with our emergency operations center. If there's any questions specifically to the COVID report, I'm happy to take those. And I believe our fire chief, who is our CEMCS, Chief Schwartz, is here as well. So between the two of us, we'd be happy to take any questions that you may have of specifics.
So I wonder, before I go on to Chief Schwartz, if you could just discuss the opening of our committees, please, how that will unfold.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And we had this conversation with the Emergency Control Group, as well as the Mayor and I had a meeting following that. I have since met with staff to discuss some of the priority areas where we would like to start meeting with our committee members and having council involved, just to move along some significant projects that have been put on hold because of the pandemic. So at this point, we're looking at probably 3 committees, and that would be those that have specific council mandated projects or deadlines. In particular, if I may, Madam Mayor, I think it's fine for me to sort of, you know,
Yes.
say which ones we're looking at. So I would love to have economic development reconvene, the traffic safety. I'm going to get this. I know it's a working group, so we have to be careful, but the traffic safety group, and the Accessibility Advisory Committee, because we would like to get our accessibility reporting up to date. It's lagged a little bit. So because of the community improvement plan, I know economic development would love to start working on that again. And there's a number of priority areas as the economy starts to open up. So that group would be quite helpful in shaping that. There's staff have capacity to assist those committees. And then we'll see how it goes as we look toward opening up some of the others. But initially, for the next month or so, I'd like to work with those 3 chairs and council members. And, you know, we'll start that next week to set up some times.
Economic development, the traffic ad hoc committee, yes, and also accessibility. I think that's really great, and you'll be in contact with the chairs and being able to get availability, and also we could support that through Zoom. I also want to say, and it was in conversation with Councillor Townsend, but of course there was a mandated time by which the traffic ad hoc committee would complete its work. Now, because of COVID, that has expanded the time frame. I'd be looking to you, Madam CEO, but I think the best process here would be to reconvene that committee and actually have the committee determine the time frame by which they need, bring that recommendation forward to council, and like have that discussion at their committee in terms of the time frame that they will need, and but have the opportunity for them to reconvene first. Procedurally, do you think that's the best process?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I think that would be appropriate. I'd really like the committee to, I believe their original target date was the end of June, and having lost a couple of months, I don't know that that's very fair. So, but they know their workload, they know what their goals are. So I would support having them get, you know, have a meeting, discuss that as an item. Staff will be there to support them, and a staff report could come back to council with their request.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Okay, just to give a bit of an update, I think our audio froze. Perhaps we were all bumped out of Zoom. Members of council, could you please put a check mark if you are here, you can hear the audio and you're available. 1, 2. Yes, we have all members of council present. Thank you. Please clear your dashboard. So the last part, Madam CAO, I was speaking in terms of when we bring forward, because the mandate for the traffic advisor or traffic task force has not been completed now, I'm going to suggest that maybe we reconvene that committee, and then the committee can determine the time frame that they will need and put that recommendation forward to council. So I think that's what I'd be looking for, Madam CEO, but could you just discuss what the best process would be? That's just a suggestion on my part, but I wonder if you could provide some clarity. Madam CEO.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm sorry, I don't know if it's my connection, but I was talking away. So I would propose that because staff are going to be supporting these three committees initially, that that working group has that conversation at their very next meeting, and staff can bring the report with their request.
Great. Thank you for that. Also, I just want to know that we're working away with terms of reference for the Sustainability Committee, so that'll be up for consideration as well. Okay, so that's just a bit of an update on committees. There's two members of council that have their hand up. We'll get your questions or comments addressed, and then I'd like to go to Chief Schwartz for his update. Starting with Councillor Townsend, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's Councillor Townsend. I had a question regarding the new website launch that was in your report as well that's happening this month. I'm wondering if Council will get a preview of what that will look like before it actually goes live.
Madam CAO, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Townsend. The website, as I believe, it's going to be going live in about 10 days. The report that was on the Committee of the Whole for the Visual Identity Guide had snapshots of what the template or what the homepage and an inside page looked like. So that we were just going to do a soft launch. And you know, I don't know exactly. I'm not as involved in the project as our communications folks, Mr. Zettel is. So if he's on the call, I'm happy to let him take it. But the intention was that we were going to just proceed with launching the website.
Coordinator Zettel, do you happen to be on the line and can respond? Other than, if not that, yes, please go ahead.
Hi, yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor, the site is scheduled to launch mid-June, so hopefully there will be lots of, like there's no doubt it's a massive, like there's a lot of information there, so there's no doubt that there's going to be edits and adjustments that we will have to do as we go along. So there'll be lots of opportunity for our community to provide input, and we look forward to that, to make those changes to make this really the best site we possibly can.
Great, thank you, Coordinator Zettel. Anything further, Councillor Townsend?
No, thank you.
Thank you too. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson here. Yeah, I was going to ask about the website, but Councillor Townsend did that, and that's good to know. One other question. I'm just wondering about the office. I know I presume we're still working in the team approach. Is the office going to be open for public access, like counter service, in the near future, or where are we going with that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Madam CAO, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. At the moment, the office still remains closed. We have priced out and ordered some safety materials that will need, things like screening and roping, so that the social distancing can be maintained. We are taking our lead from public health on opening facilities, and it's a very slow approach. I can share with council that the phones are extremely busy the days that on my team days, and I imagine they're just as busy on the other team days. And I haven't heard any complaints about service being compromised. So as much as we'd love to have the public come back in again, I don't have a date that I can share at this point.
But we will keep council up to date, and certainly our community. And I can tell you that along with as we are moving and just advancing public health guidelines and orders in terms of how we can best deal with COVID-19. We certainly are continuing the business of this corporation, so that is taking place. Okay, we have a couple more questions, and then I definitely would like to get on to Chief Schwartz for his update. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Just a couple questions. Do we know when the determination for summer camps will be made so that our families in the community can make their plans for the summer?
Madam CAO, can you respond, or shall we go to Supervisor Hewlett?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would like to have our Supervisor of Recreation respond. He's in constant contact with his colleagues across the province.
Supervisor Hewlett, please.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. And as CAO Johnson had made mention to, we are in constant contact with all of my colleagues across the province. There is no set date of when things will have the mandate to be able to open. However, there's lots of discussion that we will be able to open, so I am hopeful. I'm in the process of creating a plan for when we can open, but there's no set date as of yet. I'm hoping that we'll be able to announce some sort of opening within the next few weeks.
Anything
Okay.
further?
Yeah, one more question would be more of a financial question. We have the refunded rec fees and deposits. Do we have a sense of how much revenue we collected last year compared to this year? So I guess what I'm wondering is some people wouldn't have made new bookings under these COVID precautions. So just comparing our recreation revenue compared to last year.
So I'm wondering if staff have that available, or is that something that we could bring back? Director Mighton, is that what, if you could just mention that, then it's a bring back item.
Yes, that'll be part of our next update. We've had a tax installment due date, and we've also will be looking at the recreation and all of our different fees and charges, and that'll be part of our next assessment now that we've had some time. Yep. and see how it compares to prior year, now that we've had a couple some due dates and different things have passed, to see how it has impacted our people's ability and our cash flow.
It was a planned report back to council, but that was after the tax installments and just an assessment in terms of where we're at financially with regard to the pandemic.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. And one last question. I note that there's recognizing that there might be we might have to communicate with our community in a different way. Just wondering when we would have that discussion, or when staff might bring back an idea about how we could communicate with our community given the challenges with news distribution.
So that's we're ongoing in terms of communication with our citizens. I'll bring this forward through Madam CAO. We've been doing press releases. Certainly our online social media has been active with updates, and we also bring in information from the county, from public health and the province, and just to keep information updated, news and notices. So I know all of that is very active. Madam CAO, is there anything further with regard to communication that we can do? And certainly when we have our new website and new communication plan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's exactly the piece that I was happy to highlight. The new website does have some enhanced features for communication in the way of alert boxes, notifications, subscription ability. So we're really going to look forward to a communication, a role of all these options of how they can stay connected and stay informed.
And of course, please keep in mind that we will have that report coming at the next, like the communication plan and more information about the website at the next Committee of the Whole meeting.
Oh, great. Okay. So I look forward to the new website. Sounds fantastic. I'm just noticing in the report it speaks to print distribution, like a way of communicating in print. So I was wondering if staff are looking at a more frequent newsletter, that kind of thing. But I hear what you're saying. We'll discuss this more when we speak about communications, when we look at that report. So I look forward to that conversation. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. Councillor Herger, please.
Oh, As we speak about communication, I was curious if we could have the minutes of these emergency management meetings circulated. I know that Mayor Robinson, you've phoned us on occasion, and we know that our website has been updated frequently throughout this changing time. I guess I just think maybe that's more of a record of what is changing, and maybe the public could handle that as well. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and you're right. I was giving members of council weekly updates just by phone in terms of anything new, and also just to say hello and to stay connected. So that the purpose of my phone calls to members of council is to provide updates, in addition to what's circulated from Dr. Era and what our media releases, and also to say hello. But yeah, we'll be having more information. Our CIO is looking at the minutes and in terms of whether that's just going to be a report out or how that works for that. I do want to say that Chief Martin is on the call, but he will need to leave at 11:30. So Councillor Hergert, is there anything further? Because I do want to first get Chief Martin's update on COVID-19.
No, I appreciate Chief Martin's efforts as well as our fire chief and your own on this. Yeah.
Thank you very much appreciate that, Councillor. So with everybody's indulgence, Chief Martin, we're going to ask you to come forward to provide an update on COVID-19, respecting that you'll need to leave very shortly. Welcome, and please proceed.
Good morning, Your Worship. Good morning, members of council. Our calls for service slowly for COVID are dropping off. We still receive roughly 10 calls a day in regards to COVID and COVID advice. We have been able to direct some of them to the town and direct some of them to public health, but we are still receiving a number of calls. It has been a significantly busy spring for us, as some of you have seen through our social media, with events that have taken place in our municipality. We are working on a targeted enforcement program for our problem areas to alleviate some of the concerns our citizens have in terms of safety. We have been able to message out that the incidents that have taken place that have caused us the most concern are not incidents that are not random. We're looking at more targeted matters, and they are not isolated, and they are predominantly being caused by a group of people that we are focusing our enforcement and action efforts on at the present time. There's going to be an increased presence in the town of Durham itself over the next few months to calm down our citizens, to alleviate some of those concerns with the crime suppression plan that we're putting in place. But right now, it is business as usual for us. We have reopened our police station with some stringent checks in place to protect the health and safety of our administrative officer that we have here. But we are slowly getting back to normal. Pending any questions from council, and I do apologize, I have a meeting at 11:30 dealing with homelessness in Grey County that I have to get to. But I will take any questions if you have anything briefly that we can cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Martin, and I want to say on behalf of council and our community, we're very pleased with West Grey Police Service and yourself, and that's the officers, auxiliary, and staff. Thank you very much for protecting our community. It's appreciated. Members of council, any questions of Chief Martin before he moves on to his next meeting? Seeing none, thank you, Chief Martin. We'll look forward to your next COVID update. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move on to Chief Schwartz. Chief, I too want to just say on behalf of council and our community, thank you very much to our West Grey Fire Service and yourself and your leadership during this pandemic. We very much appreciate the work that the firefighters and yourself put forward in keeping our community safe. So Chief Schwartz, with that, could you please provide an update on COVID pandemic?
There, I take it everybody can hear me?
Yes.
I'm working from my phone, not my laptop. So anyways, I was a little disappointed this morning to learn that we've got 4 more cases in Grey Bruce. And over the weekend, I believe one of those was in West Grey. It's good to see things opening slowly, and emphasis on slowly, and properly taking direction from public health as far as distancing and putting up barriers in buildings and that. I don't know if we'll get a second wave. I imagine we will. They still say we will. I have no idea when that's going to happen. I suspect likely towards the end of the summer, and hopefully it doesn't put us back to square one where we end up shutting everything down again. I would caution you as far as your committees you're opening up and starting up your committees. It's good to see you're only doing a few at a time. I would imagine you're doing it by Zoom meeting, but anytime anybody's got a contact, they should be wearing a mask or social distancing when they're communicating face to face or person to person, however you want to put it. That would be my biggest concern. Let's see what else we got here. The fire hall is still closed. I don't have any barriers up there. I wasn't going to bother putting any up. People phone in for a permit right now, and what I do is make the permit out, put it in the mailbox. They put the money in the mailbox, and we do exchange it that way. To invest in the fire hall, I might go a day and not have anybody in there, and then I might get 10 people in one day. So it varies. I haven't had a lot of people come to the door. It's all been by phone calls and people coming in. The burn ban was lifted a couple weeks ago, and I think the majority of the farmers are done burning all their brush because the burn permits for farmers has dropped off drastically in the last, I'd say, 5 days anyways. They're more into, corn's already planted, so I don't know what they're doing, but the brush is all cleaned up pretty much. That's pretty much all I have. Let's see here. I notice as far as social distancing goes, if you're walking around town or you're out and about, the older people are very cautious, and the younger people, just like they don't care. I notice there's a lot of groups of young people hanging around places. I understand the dams opening or going to be opened here shortly, so that may cause some issues. It's nice to see that the older people, they're when they do walk around town, they do social distance themselves. I was kind of hoping that'd rub off on some of these younger people, but it doesn't seem to do that. So you'll notice younger people seem to stick together more. I'm missing a meeting right now with public health. I meet with Dr. Air every Tuesday morning, but he also sends me his stats as he does everyone else. But basically, that's all I have right now as far as fire goes and the emergency control group. There was one other item, and that was about the minutes. The minutes, they are not confidential unless they deal with security or defense of, I guess, the country, defense of the country. They're confidential, or security. What we did when the tornado went through, and I'd like to do it this time as well, is we compiled all our notes and minutes at the end. The emergency control group sat down with their own notes as well as the minutes, and they went through them and picked out any weaknesses. And then when it was presented, we went in, we had a meeting with council, and we did a debriefing before they went public, because in those minutes, there could be names of corporations, there could be names of people that have to be redacted before it can go out in public. So this is why I'd like to do it again. This way you can have a discussion on it. I would rather not release them to the public right away or make them public knowledge until this is over and done. So it gives us time to compile them as we did last time. That was also just suggested to us from Drew Madison from the OFMEM, Office of the Fire Marshal Emergency Management. I talked to him yesterday about it. I was quite concerned about that. Other than that, that's basically what I have. Thank you.
Okay, the long and the short of it, thank you very much for getting that clarity from the Office of the Fire Marshal's Office with regard to the minutes. So we'll have that compilation. We'll talk further in the emergency control group, but a compilation of actions that have taken place, and also having that debrief with council. That is very good. In terms of your report that perhaps there are certain segments of our community, perhaps some youth that are not paying as much attention to the social distancing. I think the best thing we could do is get a media communication out, probably through our social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, etc. So we'll work with communications there, certainly on this call, and our CAO is the head of that portfolio. So I think that's really great. Committee meetings will be, if it's not clear, let me make it clear for everyone, they will be electronic meetings. They will not be gatherings, so the meetings would be held by electronic means when they're up and running. I do want to say, Chief, thank you very much for all your leadership on this. Extremely well done, and it was so needed. So you're certainly assisting our community and our corporation and our council with that. So thank you and very well done. Appreciate the updates, the ongoing updates to our community, staff and council. Certainly continue to practice social distancing, wash your hands, wear a mask, all of this attention to following public health, our province and our federal government's direction in terms of how we can keep COVID low and getting it out of West Grey. And everybody's assistance in this is greatly appreciated, but it takes all of us. And when you do go out, please shop local. That's extremely important for our local economy. All right, Madam CAO, was there anything further? I wonder if you, yes, there is. And that is, could you provide a bit more information on community gardens?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we have the direction from Council to begin creating and releasing our community gardens. Our recreation supervisor will be taking the lead on that initiative. He has been in several conversations with public health for their most current guidelines. I believe they were attached with the information report in today's agenda. And he's also going to be connecting with the members of the emergency control group for best practices on making sure that folks can access gardens safely. I don't have the entire plan just yet, because I believe Mr. Hewlett's still fine-tuning it, but we will see gardens in the very near future.
And an
I don't know if
update
there's
to
anything
council.
else that exactly. Yeah, so we've got our direction, and we're working on it.
All right, well, thank you. And we look forward to the next update with regard to COVID-19. Members of council, is there anything further on this? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much to Chief Martin, Chief Schwartz, Madam CAO, and staff with regard to this report. We are now going to move on to the second report, and this is dealing with the Organizational and Compensation Review Award. Madam CAO, could you provide the presentation part of this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the report is pretty self-explanatory. We issued a request for proposal, and we received, I'm sorry, 2, 4, 5, 8 submissions, all very well done. One of our goals was to make sure that we had a comprehensive review that ideally would include library. Can you hear me okay, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I just want
Yes.
to say that, pardon me, the COVID-19 was just an information report. So just for clarity of everybody, I would not be looking for a motion on that. Sorry, everyone, just to put a bow on that. Okay, sorry, I just to make sure everybody was aware. I do apologize. Yeah, if you could just continue on with your presentation, and then I will go to Councillor Hergert after that.
Very good. Yes, thank you. Yes, that's it was just for information. So this report on the organizational compensation review, there is a motion when we get to that point. So through the RFP process, we received some very good submissions. Our goal, as I was saying originally, was to be able to include library operations so that we could do a comprehensive review, as well as council compensation, because that hasn't been addressed in a number of years. I'm very, very pleased, as was the members of senior management that assisted in the scoring of this, with the consultant that scored the highest, ML Consulting. She has an impressive resume. She's done work with a number of different size municipalities and some of our comparators as well. So I think she brings great experience and expertise to this project. Her references came back glowing, so I have incredible comfort and confidence in our selection. And she came in under budget, which is always a nice thing. And she's committed to the timeline, which is a condition of the provincial grant that, and I haven't heard if there's been any extension because of the pandemic, but she has committed that she would be able to reach that target of the end of August for reporting. And it's important to remember that because this was a grant that we were successful in securing, all of the findings and the report become public documents, which will be posted on our website.
Great. Now, I think in our regular process, Madam CAO, would this be the time now? It's a little different from just an update report that we just had. So would you be reading the motion? I'd be looking for a mover and seconder and take then any questions or comments from council, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, if I may just, normally I would have just, because the original direction from council was apply for this grant, which was specifically for this kind of work. And if we were successful, I could go ahead and award. Bringing this report is just something that I wanted to do as an extra step for transparency, for the public to see the evolution of the project, because it is very much public dollars funding this. So I have a motion that I could read right now, if you'd like, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby awards RFP 2020-01 for the organizational and compensation review to be completed by ML Consulting at a cost of $46,200.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'd move the motion to proceed.
Councillor Hergert, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes, seconding.
Thank you. Questions or comments from members of council, please? Starting with Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the CAO, I wonder if you could tell me the scope of the service review that sort of also is included in this, and not just for the library, but also for the main operation of West Grey Municipality.
Councillor Townsend, could I please ask you to restate your question? We lost a little audio.
Oh, okay. I just wondered if you could elaborate or explain the scope of the service delivery review for the municipality itself, because I know we're also doing the library, but I just wanted to get an idea of the scope of that service review for the municipality itself.
Madam CAO.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Townsend. Absolutely, it's a comprehensive project that's going to include a review of our organizational structure. It's going to include a review of our job descriptions, because some jobs may have evolved from the original descriptions that we have on file. It's going to include a comparison project with our municipal group to determine wage, salary, equity, that sort of thing. It's going to also then include the library review is the delivery and compensation and their organizational design as well. And then in addition, a council compensation study with recommendations coming out of that.
So is there no review of the actual or any processes or the end service delivery to our constituents?
So through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, the organizational structure, part of that scope will be processes and how we can continue to look for efficiencies and, making sure that we're doing things the most effective way that we can. So that's a piece of that. Okay, my last question is, if I recall correctly, the application for the grant required that we identify some savings or anything. Was that true based on the magnitude of our review, or did we not have to declare? Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor, I would include that regardless. I think that that's part of the value of having a third party help us with this is identifying some of those things that we may not have even noticed, just based on their experience with other municipalities as well. Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Councillor Hergert, please.
Like so many submissions, that's fantastic. I was just curious, we as council were prepared to spend up to $50,000. Will the $7,700 for library, does that come out of West Grey complete money, or is that out of the library budget, or is that a reserve? Where does that money come from for the library review?
Starting with CIO Johnson, and then we could go to Director Mighton. Starting with you, Madam CIO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. When we submitted the grant application, we had asked for $50,000 to include the library. That was Council's direction. So there would be no requirement to use the library's budget because the work can fall in that approved budget from our grant.
Okay, yes.
Mighton, anything further?
No, the CAO covered it. Yeah, it's all inclusive within the grant amount that we were approved for.
Thank you. Councillor Hergert, you still have the mic.
Yeah, very good. Good work on the grant application as well. This is what we've been asking for several years for, and you know, it's just a high five to everyone who worked on putting the RFP together and now to have so many submissions. We really know then we've got a good level of interest from people and we've got a very competitive bid. So thank you very much to everyone.
Yeah, I'm very pleased that we are receiving, when we put in our grant applications, that council and staff are receiving very good news for our applications. So this is just one other example of that. All right, we do have the motion on the floor, duly moved and seconded. We're at the question stage from council members. Are there any other questions before I call the vote? Seeing none on the motion, but I am going to have Madam CAO read it again, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby awards RFP 2020-01 for the Organizational and Compensation Review to be completed by ML Consulting at a cost of $46,200.
Okay. On the motion, if you're in favor, please signify with a check mark. If you're not in favor, please signify with an X mark. To begin with, as mayor, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you're voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
The motion does carry. Thank you. Clear your dashboard, please. We are now moving on to item 14, bylaws, first, second, and third readings, beginning with proposed bylaw 42-2020. Madam CIO, could you please read the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw number 42-2020, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 37-2006 for the Municipality of West Grey, in bracket JT Excavating Limited OPA 8 ZA-05-19, and bracket B//08 2019 B/10 2019 be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and CAO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book.
I'm looking for a mover and seconder, and then I do see that there are a number of hands raised for this. So Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I will move the motion.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchison seconds the motion.
Thank you. There were a number of raised hands, starting with Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and maybe I'm misreading something here, but is this not coming to planning this afternoon, this changes of this situation? And maybe our planner can comment. I'm just wondering why we're passing a bylaw if we haven't brought it to planning yet.
Yeah, there certainly is an item on our committee of adjustment. And why don't we begin with Planner Spencer for this, please?
Yes, I can certainly appreciate, this has been a long process. Certainly, if I can give you the history of it. So last fall, there was a proposed official plan amendment. So it was changing the lands from future development and environmental protection with a flood fringe overlay and redesignating a portion of those lands to permit residential development. So as of actually just yesterday afternoon, the official plan amendment was approved by the County of Grey. So this is just the next step in terms of following a zoning bylaw amendment that is required, which is what we're speaking to right now. And after 1 o'clock, there is a public meeting to discuss the consents that are required for the property. If you'd like a little bit more of an overview in terms of what those consents entail, I can do that now, or I think it might be more appropriate to do at committee.
Yes, I think the consents would be more appropriate at 1 o'clock, actually specifically 1:05 when that item is on the agenda for discussion, but really appreciate the history and the clarity that you provided to us, Planner Spencer. Councillor Hutchinson, you still have the mic.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wondered why we were, I didn't want to get ourselves ahead of ourselves if we're looking at it and asking for approval this afternoon, but that's fine as long as this is appropriate steps. I'm good with that.
Good question, though. Thank you. Members of council, I know there were a number of hands raised, probably on the same question, I'm thinking. However, let's see if there's anybody else that wishes to speak on this motion. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yeah, Councillor Townsend, I think it would be simple to say the one before us is on zoning and the one this afternoon is on a severance request. So I think that's the distinction between the two.
Thank you very much. Anything further?
No, thank you.
Good, thank you. Members of council, any other questions? Seeing none. On the motion, all those in favor, please signify with a check mark. Those not in favor, please signify with an X mark. I'll begin. As mayor, I am voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion does carry. Thank you. Please clear your dashboard. Now we are moving on to proposed bylaw 43-2020. Madam CAO, could you please read the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw number 43-2020, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of the estimates of all sums required during the year to strike the tax rate, and to provide for penalty and interest in default of payment thereof for the year 2019, repeals bylaw number 41-2019, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CAO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Shea, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Shea, yes, I move the motion.
Councillor Hamilton, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hamilton, I second the motion.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none? Oh, yes. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, just a comment about the commercial and vacant land. Is there any movement? Does that been come forward county council again? I know it's a county thing, so it's something we've talked about, but it still seems to be out there, and we haven't had a lot of movement on it.
Yeah, I can say that at county, things were being status quo for this year, and that there would be consideration coming up for next year on how this was to be addressed.
Right. I think if we get that done, that'll definitely help us move forward in some of these buildings that are sitting idle there and getting a tax break.
Yes, and it was all contingent on, because we're dealing with the pandemic, it was felt through staff and then ultimately through county council that it remained status quo at this point. But I can tell you that Director of Finance, Kevin Wepler at the county, and certainly our Director of Finance and Treasurer, Director Mighton, are in constant contact. So we will also keep this council up to date if there's anything further.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Anything else, members of council? On the motion then, all those in favor, please signify with the check mark. Those opposed, please signify with an X mark. So as mayor, I am voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, would you mind repeating? Your audio was just slightly off a little bit.
Councillor Townsend in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison in favor.
Motion carried. Thank you. Now we're dealing with proposed bylaw 44-2020. Madam CAO, could you please read the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw number 44-2020, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 2nd, 2020 council electronic meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and CAO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hergert, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchison seconds the motion.
Any questions on this? Seeing none, to vote in favor, use your check mark. To vote opposed, use your X mark. As mayor, I am voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Hutchison in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson in favor.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend in favor.
Motion carried. We're now on item 15, new business. Is there any new business? Oh, first of all, clear your dashboard of check marks. I'd appreciate that. And starting with Councillor Shea.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's Councillor Shea. Not exactly new business, but in our agenda, we had a report from Mr. Hewlett regarding the community garden, and it included a request for direction from council. But it doesn't show up on the agenda. So I don't know if we skipped over that or if he needs that direction from council in this meeting.
Well, my understanding is that it was covered off in the consent agenda, and the motion was, it was through the consent agenda. So that was, we have under the consent agenda moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Shea. And that was be it resolved that, and through our consent agenda, you know how we do it in a package, right. But this one comes forward as be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby direct staff to open to the public the community garden located at the east of Durham Arena upon social distancing measures being implemented as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. So that was bundled in the consent motion. And then we had a further discussion through COVID-19.
Okay,
you have the mic. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. So it's good to go. Thank you. Any other new business? Seeing none then, I just did that with a sort of a gradual comment there. Seeing none, we're complete on item 15. Item 16, Madam CAO, I'm not aware of any addendums. Are you?
Through Madam Mayor, no, there are no addendums.
Thank you. Item 17, notice of motion or direct motion, starting with Madam CAO. Are you aware of any?
Through Madam Mayor, I am not aware of any. Thank you.
Okay, members of council? Seeing none. Item 18, closed session, incomplete item only. That is an NA. Item 19, matters arising from closed session, incomplete items only. That is an NA. We are now on item 20, question period. So this is where I turn to Supervisor Hewlett and ask him to manage this section, see if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak and any further comment that he needs to make at this time, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the public who wish to participate during the question period can share their name and ask a question by sending a message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, or using the chat function, which will be located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Alternatively, if you have joined us via phone, you can push *9 to raise your hand, and then you will be called upon to ask your question.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewlett. At this time?
At this time, sorry, I have not received any questions, but maybe we will give it a minute and see if...
Yes, thank you for that suggestion. Because if there's anyone in our virtual audience that wishes to have a question answered, now would be the time. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Supervisor Hewlett, could you just confirm that?
Reviewing the chat and the dashboard, I have not received any questions.
Thank you. So we're moving on to item 21, Municipal Act notices. There are none for this particular agenda. So on item 22, which is adjournment, Madam CAO, could you read the motion?
One moment, please, Madam Mayor. I don't know where I put that. Just give me 1 second, please. This is the joys of working remotely. I thought I had everything with me.
So perhaps I could assist, if I might.
Yes, thank you.
Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 12:02 p.m. to meet again at our next scheduled council meeting, which will be, our next council meeting will be June 16th. And that will be an evening meeting. So at this point, it will be at 7 p.m. or at the call of the mayor. Will that suffice, Madam CIO?
Very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Hamilton, are you moving that motion?
Councillor Hamilton? Yes, I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hergert, are you seconding the motion?
Councillor Hergert seconding.
On the motion to adjourn, please signify with a check mark, an X mark if you're not in favor to begin with. As mayor, I am voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchinson, in favor.
Motion does carry. We are adjourned. I just want to remind everybody that we do have a Committee of Adjustment meeting this afternoon at 1 p.m. and I will see you all back at that time. Thank you very much, one and all.